little nervous. Jerry, you do this for a living. Like I said, I feel like I'm going to play a pickup game with an NBA player today. Welcome to Behind the Frame, where we go beyond the LinkedIn bios and Instagram highlight reels to talk about what really happens when you're building something from scratch. I'm Jay Duffy, co-founder of Frame Wealth Partners, business owner, husband, dad, and guy who still wonders if winging it counts as a legitimate growth strategy. Spoiler, it does sometimes. Join me and my amazing co-host, Morgan Watson and Annette Quigley, as we sit down with someone who's built a business or is knee-deep in the messy middle of it. And we talk about the real stuff, the pivots, the late nights, the wins no one celebrated, and the lessons no one warned them about. So grab a coffee or something stronger. We're going behind the frame. Okay, welcome back to Behind the Frame. I'm your host, Jay Duffy, and with me, as always, is the mouth from the South, Morgan Watson.
Wow, that's a rough intro right out of the gate.
Exactly.
I'm afraid what's coming my way.
We pull no punches here.
Exactly.
All right.
So Morgan and Gerry, I'll pose the question to you. Weekend wins. So your weekend win?
So my kids are older. So out of school or in college or in high school. Greatest Christmas ever. We no longer do the elf on the shelf. Loved it when they were young for the first year or two.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure every parent knows, you wake up at 2:30 in the morning like, oh my Lord, I didn't move the elf. And you have to get up, run around, move it and all that. So that is well beyond us now.
Yeah.
So that was a huge win in the Watson household. You got no elf on the shelf we have to move.
For us, it's kind of similar, but our son is old enough now that he's doing elf on the shelf for us, which is a huge win because it takes the weight off of us. And he's like, hey, I get to surprise my sisters every morning with
Better parenting than the Watsons. We had them all believing at the same time.
Just way more creative than what I did. Like,
Nothing wrong with that.
it's awesome. It's awesome. I know you weren't expecting this, Jared, but weekend win.
Weekend win. My daughter had twins 2.5 months ago, and she's in town with the babies. And so the weekend win is I got to play with my grandchildren,
That's awesome.
who are Malachi and Cairo, who are just like the new love of my life. And I'm reacquainted with bottles, babies, burping diapers, and how one little smile from one little person can completely change your outlook on life.
Yeah.
100%.
The little things really are the big things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we have an amazing guest. I was telling him earlier, I'm a little nervous. Jerry, you do this for a living. Like I said, I feel like I'm going to play a pickup game with an NBA player today. So please don't judge us too harshly here.
All fair.
We have our 5 listeners listening, but the reality is, let me give you a quick introduction. I did write some notes, and I saw your post today about looking at notes.
Use notes, not scripts.
Scripts. Perfect.
Now, here's why. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. So if you look at the font size on your script, you've already set yourself up for failure.
Yep.
Here's why. The second you get on camera, the second you get in front of a room, a new client, whatever the case might be, your body will naturally flood with adrenaline. One of the side effects of an adrenaline flood, your pupils dilate. It's the same as going to the eye doctor. We wear glasses and having the drops put in your eye.
Yeah.
Notice how hard it is to see after that?
Sure.
Well, now that you have all this adrenaline, watch when you look down how hard it is to read that.
That's true.
Now
what happens.
I won't even able to see this now.
Right. So, but notice your headlines,
Right.
you can read.
Yeah.
So the part of the deal is to have notes that have lots of white space and big font,
Right.
because it's harder to read when you feel the natural anxiety that happens in a setting like this.
My bad, Morgan. In the future, I will make the font.
Now you'll know.
Yeah. No, this is awesome. This is Gerry Sandusky, folks. I mean, so many things. The voice of the Baltimore Ravens. Talk to me about Emmy-winning sportscaster, longtime WBL anchor, leadership and communication coach, keynote speaker, and the founder of the Sandusky Group. So
It's been a busy 4 decades.
yeah.
And grandfather to twins.
Right. And grandfather now. Father and grandfather.
Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
So, Gerry, let's kick off things with how did you get into the broadcasting business?
So it's a pretty roundabout story, and it's not linear.
Okay.
I graduated college. I was a finance and economics major at Towson. But you went to college to learn business, and you get a business degree, and then you become a business person. I had literally no guidance, just like most people, right?
Right.
So I'm getting ready to graduate, and I meet with this career counselor, and she asked me this question that stops me in my tracks. Because up to that point, I've been doing the typical interviewing, and I noticed 2 trends. One, I didn't like any of the jobs. And 2, I wasn't offered any of the jobs. So, hey, I got a problem here. So she looks at me, she says, if you could have any job and you knew you couldn't fail, what would you take? And without thinking about it, I just said, I would host the Tonight Show.
Oh, really?
And she looked at me and said, have you ever thought of a career in TV or the media? I said, actually, no, I never really did. But it got me thinking, and so I started to pursue this roundabout way. My parents lived in Florida. My dad was the offensive line coach with the Miami Dolphins. And so I moved to Florida, and I started to knock on TV station doors and said, can I have an internship? Well, they didn't have any because I was a graduate, and you have to be getting college credit or some kind of credit. You have to be enrolled. So I enrolled back in the day when people remember matchbooks.
Yeah.
Well, on the back of a matchbook was this thing called the Brown Institute of Broadcasting. It was a DJ school. I didn't want to be a DJ, but I found it was in Fort Lauderdale. I enrolled. I went back to the TV station. I said, hey, I'm in school. Can I have an internship? And they said, yeah. So I come in. We don't have a program, but you're welcome to hang out. So I hung out for a year and a half, learned different skills. And then one day an editor didn't show up. So I picked up part-time work editing. And then one day a producer didn't show up. So I picked up part-time working doing that. And one day a reporter couldn't make a shoot. I went and shot the story. And apparently it wasn't so horrible because the news director came back and said, hey, that wasn't bad. Why don't you do it again tomorrow? And I've been doing it for 4 decades ever since.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, I can't give anybody real career advice because you would never tell somebody to do it that
To do it that way, yeah. Do you remember the moment where you found your voice?
You know, it's gradual. There's not a moment. That's the thing.
Okay.
Everybody thinks, you think you're like Jim Carrey in the movies or something, and like 40 minutes into the film, duh, it doesn't happen that way.
Right.
What happens is like you gradually start to handle it. And you gradually, and the way, what pushes you into that is pressure. So in the early days, the only time I got to anchor is because everybody else was out of town. And what I learned was there wasn't enough time for me to produce it, edit it, write it, and then deliver it on camera. So something had to go by the wayside. So what went by the wayside was writing it.
Okay.
And so I had to learn how to ad lib.
Oh.
And that changed the arc of my career because a lot of people in television are prisoners to the prompter. What's on there, they'll see. You remember Will Ferrell?
Well, I was going to ask, man.
If you ever had a moment where you had a, Will Ferrell moment.
No, thank God.
Ron Burgundy.
Right, yeah, Ron Burgundy. No, thank God, because of this fact that early in my career, the very start, I had to learn how to ad lib.
Oh,
So that gave me the ability to talk to a camera, to talk to a person, and not have a script in front of me.
well, you probably felt more comfortable too.
Sure, because that is not a camera.
Right.
It's a person.
Yeah.
So whether you're podcasting to 10 million people, 2 people, doesn't matter. 5, it doesn't matter.
Right.
If you're next to your neighbor,
Yeah.
it's always one person. You look at the camera the way you look at one person. Think about it. We're joking, you're intimidated, but we're not intimidated because we make eye contact.
Right.
Now, do the same thing with a camera. You make eye contact. It's the same thing.
Gotcha.
It's just another medium of which we communicate, but we always communicate one-to-one.
Gotcha.
Who were some of your early mentors or influences that kind of helped you?
So,
through your
so
career?
broadcasting wise, like my influence, I love Dick Enberg, Bob Costas. They were very polished, they were very professional, and they were very unbiased, which to me was really important. So I looked at that and I really loved how everything they did at the highest level, and it was very classy.
Yep.
And that had a profound impact on me. And then, coming along the way, there'd be some guys you wouldn't have known, but a guy named Doug Vaughn, who was a weekend sportscaster in Miami, who, he taught me how to write when I actually had time how to write.
Right.
And the guy named the late Brett Lewis, who was a really talented, out-of-the-box thinker as an on-air personality. And a guy named Andy Lascano, I'll always remember, who Andy was a broadcaster in Miami, who one day looked at me, and I was just a middling, stumbling, clueless intern. And I was kind of feeling like, I don't know if I can do this. And he pulled me aside and said, hey, buddy, let me tell you something. If I can make a living doing this, trust me, you can make a living doing this. And those little touch points, I don't care if you're in financial services, broadcasting, consulting, those little touch points get people through the gaps of confidence we all have in our life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, geez.
We were talking a little bit before we started. When did you truly realize the importance of communicating and that impact that proper communication really has? Because again, broadcasting, you're teaching executives and business owners. What was really that impact? Where did you see that?
So I saw it in a couple of different iterations in my life. In broadcasting, I would see it when I would say something on the air and I didn't realize it, and people would say it back to me.
Okay.
That was one of the first things I thought, wow, the hay's in the barn. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you'll probably get to that because, that's a big part of my identity, purely by accident. I just dropped that in. I think it was the second year I was doing Ravens games, and I just dropped that in at that seminal moment when the Ravens would, wrap up the win, and I didn't realize I said it.
Yeah.
It was an old expression my college football coach, the late Phil Albert, used to say at the end of practice, and it just kinda came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But throughout the course of that week, so many people said it back to me
So cool.
that I recognized, wow, that resonated, that connected.
Yeah.
So that was that was one of the broadcasting lessons was when you say things and people say it back to you, you've made that connection. And then in consulting, what I discovered was people bring this tremendous excellence that they have 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, financial services, construction, engineering, and then they get in front of an audience and they try to turn it into somebody else. And that's usually a bumbling person who can't get it all out. They're trying to jam it all in, and they make the wrong perception. They create the wrong perception in the audience, and they create this huge gap where people think because they're poor communicators, they're poor at fill in the blank. And that's not the case at all. And so I just kind of set out to help people, close that gap. See, even I make mistakes and hit my.
Well, let's kind of talk about the Ravens, WBL, and some of your broadcasting career. Coolest moment you've ever called?
I get that a lot.
Okay.
And I don't really have a moment because in every moment, in every game, a 3-hour broadcast, you're literally in that moment.
Right.
And so when you have those moments that years later show up on tape and that's what everybody's talking about, you don't necessarily feel that moment because you're already on to the next moment.
That's true.
You don't get 20 minutes in between your great calls to sit there and say, wow, nailed that one, didn't I? You're literally always on the nose of the ball. You're on to the next moment telling the story. It's unraveling as you narrate it. So there's really no moment to sit back and say, wow, that was. Most of my cool moments are things that have never even shown up on the air.
Oh, wow.
Like there was a guy, I'll get emotional talking about it, but a security guy, an usher at Camden Yards and M&T Bank Stadium, guy named Walt Staniewski, passed away several years ago. I got to be great friends with him. He was an old mill worker,
Okay.
one of the most kind, decent human beings. My daughter, who just had twins, when she was born, her first Easter, he sends home an Easter dress and homemade kielbasa because we're both Polish. And these are the conversations you have with these guys in the belly of stadiums that you get really close to over the years. Those are really the moments I most treasure in my career.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool.
Well, it's interesting. I grew up down south, so
What part?
Georgia.
All right.
So Northwest.
Go Dogs.
Oh, absolutely. So to my point, down south, college football tends to be much more ingrained individually and kind of that fanaticism. Moving up here, obviously the Ravens are huge. What do you find that kind of makes Ravens fans unique? Do you see it? Because it's a little different than what I experience on the professional level.
Right.
So,
So for starters, I've always had this philosophy. At the end of the day, you are either a Saturday guy or girl or a Sunday guy or girl. One is always going to edge out the other a little bit. So the Ravens do travel much like a college team. Their fans go with them everywhere. And that is something that's fairly new to the NFL. The other thing is fairly new. It's only one generation. You go to a Ravens game, everybody has a Ravens jersey on. That was college.
Yeah.
So the NFL has borrowed heavily from college in the way fans conduct themselves, the way coaches coach, the way players play. For the longest time in the NFL, you came from college, you had to learn the pro game.
Yeah.
And if you were a quarterback, 3 years you weren't going to play. You had to learn the pro game. Now, the college game became the pro game. Lamar Jackson was a big reason that changed. Running quarterbacks were no longer looked down on. Everybody wants a Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
So that all changed. But I think it's the same thing expressed in a different way.
Okay,
It's
that's fair.
people wanting to belong to something bigger than themselves. So if you live in rural Georgia, you're more likely to relate to the Dogs than the Atlanta Falcons.
Absolutely.
Would you say that's fair?
Oh, unequivocally.
If you live in Maryland, you're more likely to relate to the Ravens or the Commanders, God forbid, just kidding, than the University of Maryland. But you might relate to both, but it's going to be like this.
Sure.
It's just that's the nature of a pro town versus a college city or state.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That to me is the big difference. But it's really it's a very similar expression. It's like one speaks French, one speaks Latin, but they're both speaking.
What would you say is the hardest part about commentating an NFL game? Because I look at it, I'm like, I don't know how you do that.
So one of the things I had to learn to do is something that people ask me all the time and they think I'm blowing them off. What do you think's going to happen? I don't know. And what I learned early on was my opinion, my anticipation has no income on the impact on the outcome. So what I learned to do was not think about it. So the hardest thing I had to learn to do was do all my prep work and then don't think about it. Because if you go back to Thanksgiving, did you see any pundits the day before the game say, the Ravens are going to turn the ball over 5 times?
Yeah.
No. And did you hear anybody before the Ravens game against the Steelers say, look, the pivotal play is going to be Isaiah Likely not catching a ball in the end zone? Or go back to Kansas City a year ago. They'll lose the game by literally 1 toe. Like the things that dictate the outcome of a game, you can't predict anyway. So why bother thinking about it? What they taught me to do was broadcast the game you see, not the game you expect to see. As a fan, any frustrations you've ever had are solely based on your expectations.
Wow.
Yeah.
You expected Georgia to win the national championship, and they came up a point short. You expected the Ravens to beat the Steelers, and they came up 5 points short. If you just watch the game and see how it transpires, your level of frustration will go down dramatically.
Yeah. Great point. So true. So true. I want to talk a little bit about the Sandusky Group. So again, we work with business owners all the time, and we feel, I think there's a huge similarity between business owners, coaches, their ability, again, to communicate goals, dreams, accountability. So what kind of led you from broadcasting to really starting the Sandusky Group?
So by now, you're going to start to realize the major theme in my life purely by accident. There was no 5-year business plan. It was
I can't wait to see what happens 10 years from now.
Really, exactly, right? Guess who wound up on Mars first? So a friend of mine was working in marketing at Mercy Medical Center. This goes back 30 plus years. And they had purchased time to create a program for the doctors to kind of market their services. Well, a month before, the doctors started to say, we don't know how to be on TV. We're going to look stupid. It's what everybody's afraid of. They're deathly afraid of looking dumb on TV.
Yeah.
Where that fear came from, I don't know. So she reached out to me. She said, would you media coach my doctors? I don't know how it'd be like me saying, would you suddenly media coach a financial advisor tomorrow? Like a kid who's never, ever even seen a balance sheet. Sure. So I just started kind of guinea pig and play it and just doing her a favor. I wouldn't charge any. I was just doing it. And then one day, one of the doctors looked at me and said, this is a reproducible service, right? Yeah, I didn't really think about that. And sure enough, it was. So I started to do other media coaching. And then that got me into other organizations. And what I discovered is, especially larger organizations, smaller organizations, there's only a skinny percentage of people at the very top who need media coaching, the C-suite, right?
Yeah.
But there might be 1,000 people who need presentation skills coaching,
Right.
who need to learn how to do a podcast, who need to learn how to speak to a camera, what I call in front of the room, the Zoom, and the camera. Then COVID hits and everybody has to be on Zoom.
Yeah.
Well, guess what the rules are of Zoom? TV. That's all it was. Everybody's panicked. They'd watch TV their whole lives, but now they're on TV and they're freaking out. And so all I did was go and show people how to be their actual selves. I'm not trying to teach you how to be you. I'm not teaching you to be me. I just got to teach you how to be your very best self and turn it on so that when the opportunity presents itself, there you go. And what I discovered is most people have all the same problems. They're afraid to look stupid. They want to put too much in.
Right.
And they overwhelm the audience and they don't understand their audience.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, that's
when you look at who you've helped out and where you see your Sandusky Group growing, who's your ideal client?
So my ideal client is a rising leader or an existing leader who wants to grow their influence. They want to grow their influence, their income, or their company.
Right.
And they recognize they can't do it strictly on skills and data alone.
Okay.
Think about all the stuff that you know. But when a new client comes to you, do they ask to look at your resume and your CV? And do they ask what your grade point average was? And they do ask, they do probably ask you, hey, what's the Dow going to do next month? Right? And you can't do that any more than I can do what the Ravens are going to do. We both know that. But what they're really going to connect with is, do I emotionally connect with you? That's first. If you don't get that part first, they'll never intellectually connect with you. It works with every audience.
Yeah.
Whether you're doing a keynote, whether you're doing a podcast, whether you're doing a broadcast. If I don't connect with you emotionally, if I try to use communications to impress you, I'll miss every time and you won't volunteer. But if we connect emotionally, now you are more likely to volunteer to follow me intellectually.
Right.
And it works in both directions.
We see that all the time in our industry. We always joke that advisors like to use advisor talk. And it's terrible because half the time they don't understand it. Darn sure knows the person you're talking to doesn't. And we always
Dropping EBIT in on somebody walks in, oh, the EBIT of that company's real foul.
speak to them like they're in 5th grade.
Right.
You know, because that's where that comfort is.
So I'll help you even rethink that another level. Because when you think about they're in 5th grade, what happens is you tend to talk down to people.
Okay.
You tend to talk like if you talk to somebody like they're in 5th grade, they're going to feel like you're talking down to them. And that's going to ruin the connection. The art of the deal is this. Think about the technical language in financial services. I'm going to flip the table on you, and I'm going to show you what that feels like as a non-expert. Okay. Here's the scenario. The scenario is your podcast is taken off. It's now in the top 10. And CNN wants to do a story on how you guys were able to launch this massively successful podcast. So they're going to equip you with an interruptible feedback, an IFB. Are you comfortable with that?
No.
That's technical language.
Yep. Right.
An IFB, an interruptible feedback, is the squiggly little earpiece you clip on the back of your collar. It's the kind the Secret Service wear.
Yeah.
And you plug that in one of your ears so that when you're on camera and the reporter's in Atlanta and you're here in Baltimore, you can hear and communicate. Now, did you understand the second way better than the first way?
Yes.
In the first way, that's technical language, jargon.
Yeah.
It's not BS. If I'm talking to somebody in TV and I say, hey, do you have your IFB? You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you're in financial services and you talk to me using financial services language and I don't speak that language, you'll miss. So the art of the deal is finding what I call layperson's language.
Yep.
It's the language we all speak regardless of our area of expertise. It's not that I'm a five-year-old or a 5th grader. It's that I don't speak your language.
Yeah.
You've got to find this common language. And typically it involves painting pictures.
Storytelling. Yep.
Think of how I got you to see what an IFB was. It's the kind of Secret Service wear. Yeah. The second I said it, you can literally see that. Yeah. What happens in communication when people see your point? They literally say, oh,
I get it.
I see your point.
Yeah.
That's the art of communication is that.
Yeah.
It's not you knowing more and talking down or trying to get me because I'm a moron. No. It's just about you conveying what you know in a way that I understand it.
Yep. Makes total sense. Most common communication fall that you see with leaders.
All right. I'll show it to you. Take your cup.
Yep.
All right. Let's say for sake of argument, this is a gallon of water. I have a gallon. And I have a gallon because I've been doing this a long time. I know this stuff. And I want you to know all this stuff. The biggest mistake leaders make is they pour the gallon all at once. You've been doing this, for a quarter of a century. You guys know your financial stuff. You dump all this stuff, or you hit me with all this stuff. Here's the problem. You only have a 4-ounce cup. And the reason you only have a 4-ounce cup is you have a business, you have a spouse, you have kids, you have neighbors, you have a job, you have a to-do list as long as your left arm. You don't have time for my gallon. So what happens if I pour a gallon into your 4-ounce cup?
Overwhelmed.
And how much do you wind up with?
Probably
4 ounces. And the rest of it in my lap.
4 ounces, and I have lost control over which 4 ounces.
Exactly.
That is the number one mistake leaders make. So here's the art of the deal. Pour my gallon 4 ounces at a time.
Yep.
Let you consume some. When you consume some, I can pour some more.
Gotcha.
There's 2 ways to do this. I can give you 4 ounces a gallon at a time.
Yeah.
Or I can give you a gallon 4 ounces at a time.
Okay.
That's the art of the deal.
I really like that.
Yeah. So public speaking versus executive presence. What's the difference?
So executive presence is understanding what I call being above the visible line. When you're above the visible line, how many people in your organization?
Our group, we've got 5 or 7, and then our firm, 184.
Right. And so everybody in the firm knows you guys. You are above the visible line. So if you walk in tomorrow and you've got blood on your shirt, your left side of your face isn't shaved, you haven't combed your hair, people are going to look at you and think, "Yeah, problem with the company. What the hell's going on here?" Without you saying a word.
Yeah.
Executive presence is understanding you're always communicating even when you're not talking. And that other people take their clues from you at all times.
Leading by example.
And they will plug in the narrative if there's a gap.
They'll make their own story.
Correct.
Yep.
Stage presence is taking your brand and literally displaying it. Now, the problem most executives have that I've run into in the communication field is they don't know their brand.
Yeah.
And here's brand. You've got a logo on your shirt.
Yep.
That's not your brand.
Okay.
Frame Wealth Partners. I'm gonna teach you your brand in a way you haven't really thought of it before. But the dude that I need you guys to tell me a hobby one of you has outside of work that you're passionate about.
Cooking.
Golf.
Cooking. All right, golf. Okay, perfect. So I'll start with golf. Let's say for Christmas, Morgan decides you've had such a great year. He's going to buy you any set of golf clubs in the world you want.
Amazing.
What would you? Right. He's a great guy.
Save my game.
What are you going to buy?
Probably a new putter.
And what kind of a putter would you buy?
Scotty Cameron.
Perfect. So when you see a Scotty Cameron, when you see that at Dick's Sporting Goods or online or a Super Bowl commercial, what do you think and feel when you see a Scotty Cameron putter?
It's a premier putter. It's the best.
It's the best.
Yep.
What's it going to do for your game?
Oh, it's going to help me score lower.
Right. You're going to prove it's the best.
He's a better putter.
Score lower. You'll be a better putter. And how will you feel about yourself?
A lot better.
Boom. So think about this. When you saw this putter, you thought it's premier. It's going to help my game. I'm going to feel better about myself. That's the brand of Scotty Cameron.
Gotcha.
Notice you didn't tell me how it's made. You didn't tell me where the supply chain routed through. You didn't tell me where the materials were sourced. You didn't know any of the technical parts. You told me what you think and feel.
Yeah.
That's what brand is. I don't care if it's your car, your putter, your pottery, your cookware, whatever you're cooking in. Everybody, that's the emotional connection. So when it comes to Frame Wealth Partners, the idea is to think, what do we want our target audience to think and feel when they think about us? So with my company, Sandusky Group, we built the entire company around this one simple big idea. Presentations and communication shouldn't suck for anyone. And by doing that, I wanted to make it super approachable.
Yeah.
This isn't PhD. I'm not picking on PhD, but this isn't super crazy high. This is stuff that I can change how you think in 4 hours or 4 seconds.
Yeah.
And once that happens, now it's approachable.
Right.
So that's the way to think about logo. Merely reflects what you want people to see and think and feel when they think about you at any touch point. The way you'll think the same thing about a Scotty Cameron if you pick it up and practice with it, if you see it in a Super Bowl commercial, if it's in a Sports Illustrated ad.
Yeah.
That's the power of brand.
Absolutely. Wow.
And most executives don't know their brand.
That's so true.
And one of these we teach is how to discover it.
Okay. What the big question, we were talking about this earlier, how do you stay resilient in a career where every word is judged?
20-60-20 rule.
Okay.
It's a rule I came across in some iteration, and I just kind of formalized it into 20-60-20. When you are out in front of an audience, when you are above the visible line, it applies to you guys the way it applies to me. In any setting, 20% of the people are going to love you. Doesn't matter what. You know what? Oh, my favorite brother has a beard just like yours. I adore him. You're a great guy. You can do no wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
20% of the people are having such a terrible day, it does not matter what you do or say, you are never going to connect with them. So, you might be looking at, I might be looking at you and we're not connecting. And I don't know that, your dog passed away yesterday. Or I don't know that you and your spouse had this huge row the minute before we got, I don't know what it is. But 20% of the audience, they're just not going to connect with you. It's the 60 in the middle that are always at play. And what we tend to do is we put all of our energy on the 20% we're not connecting with, and we ignore the 80% we can have. You're never getting them anyway. And the social media is a great way to learn this, because I've had plenty of broadcasts where I thought, man, we really did a great job on that. And sure enough, if you on the feed, there'll be 20% of people who are sure I'm a jackass. It's just the way it works.
Yeah.
And you just have to get thick enough skin to understand nobody connects with everybody.
Right. Right. So true. So true.
So kind of follow that a little bit. When you work with these executives, when they have to have those tough conversations, how do you recommend? Do you kind of ease into it? Do you go straight in from the start? How do you help some of these leaders, or same thing with coaches? How do you have these tough conversations?
So the first thing I always tell is I'm not Moses and these aren't the 10 Commandments.
Sure.
And it's something that I learned from my dad, who was a longtime NFL assistant coach, Gerry Sandusky. And I had this conversation with him many, many years ago. And I said, "Hey, Dad, do great coaches really treat all their players the same way?" He said, "Absolutely not." He said, "There's a sliding scale. The players who help you win more get more latitude.
Yep.
The players who help you win less might be great guys, but they don't get as much latitude." And then the second thing is you've got to coach to personalities. My dad had a Hall of Fame center named Dwight Stevenson with the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
And he said, in all the years he coached Dwight, he never yelled at him once. He said, because Dwight was so hard on himself, my dad knew if he yelled at Dwight, he was going to go into a turtle shell and it would be counterproductive.
Absolutely.
My dad also coached the late, great Bubba Smith with the Baltimore Colts. And he used to joke, he said, "God, I had my foot up Bubba's butt almost every hour of every day because I knew I needed to do that because otherwise he was just not going to reach his level of greatness." So when I'm coaching executive, the biggest thing I try to get them back to is, what's your brand? So Morgan, you and Jay are going to approach different situations differently based on you're from Georgia.
Yeah.
Jay's not from Georgia. You have a certain way you like to do things. Jay has a certain way he likes to do things. It's not about, do I open up talking about how was your weekend? It's not about wait 5 minutes. It's not about say it first and get out of the way. It's not about do it on Monday or Friday. It's about who is your most authentic self.
Yeah.
And be your most authentic self in the most challenging moments. When you do that, still a crappy situation. They're still going to be upset that they lost the job or the situation, but you will gain the respect of being your authentic self in the challenging times. Easy to be great when things are good.
Yeah.
So
How are you when things are tough? And if if you are that Scotty Cameron putter,
yeah.
at the toughest of times, that's how you know it's a great putter. And I'll know the same thing about you as leaders.
Absolutely. Well, let's move into our hot or not topic. Do you want to hit
Yep.
on kind of what we over?
So we're going to go through a bunch of quick questions. Hot or not? It's important. It's happening right now. It's not that big a deal. It's overrated. And if you want to expand on it a little bit, that's fine as well.
AI and broadcasting right now.
Hot.
Oversharing and public speaking, giving too much personal information.
Not.
Coaching executives via Zoom.
Hot.
Okay.
NFL London expansion.
Not.
Why not?
It's logistically still too challenging.
Too much
Really?
travel.
Way too much. Until you guys have both traveled overseas.
Yep.
Have you done it with your family?
Yes.
So when you do it with your family, how many kids do you have?
3.
So that means you're in charge of 4 passports.
Yeah.
And if your spouse is with you, you might have to do 5, or she's in charge of all 5, whatever.
Yeah.
Expand that to 150 people.
Yeah, that's great.
Imagine traveling with 150 people to London.
Yes.
That's what it's like to travel with a football team.
Oh,
At every level. Food. Time
I
zone.
didn't even think about that.
Language.
Yeah. Yep.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Doing something stupid while you're overseas.
Yep. So you can do it once in a while. You don't want to do it all the time.
How about short form storytelling like TikTok or Reels, things
Hot.
like that? Okay.
CEOs trying stand-up comedy in corporate meetings.
Neither hot nor not downright stupid.
All right.
If you are not a trained comedian, I always tell people, don't do jokes.
Yeah.
There's an art to that.
Yeah.
And the cardinal rule is always, the easier something looks, the harder somebody's worked on it.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing. Don't go there.
This is maybe controversial, but athletes hosting their in-season podcast.
Oh, it's very hot,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's very smart.
Yeah.
Because you're just putting yourself into too many situations that once you establish, we're doing this every Tuesday, you don't know what's going to happen on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've never seen anybody become a better player because they talked on a podcast the week before or after a game.
Yeah.
So why would you do that?
Yeah.
I've seen guys become better players because they changed their diet, they changed their sleep habits, they changed their exercise routine, but I've never seen a podcast improve somebody during their season.
What about sports documentaries showing kind of the behind-the-scenes drama that teams?
Super hot.
Yeah.
I think it's great for storytelling. I think I love those.
Awesome. All right. We just finished the hot or not segment. We're going to move into plead the fifth. Now, Gerry, I don't know if you've listened to any of our podcasts lately, but this is the plead the fifth segment.
Okay.
We're going to ask you some questions. You don't know how many questions we're going to ask you. You get one plead the fifth.
Okay. All right. One ace of my pocket.
That's it.
Use it wisely.
All right.
These will be pretty easy though. Who's tougher to critique, NFL players or CEOs?
CEOs. And the simple reason why is NFL players are used to being critiqued. They've been critiqued since they've been in high school. They've been coached heavily, hardly, consistently. CEOs tend to have reached a point where nobody's giving them honest feedback. And I always said, that's my job as a consultant. I can tell your boss what's going to get you fired.
Radical transparency. That's what I need.
Bigger divas, athletes or corporate leaders?
Can be similar. And it's usually the ones who aren't as good as they think they are. The very best are never divas. It's the ones who are a notch below the very best who think they're above the very best. And I see that in corporate. I see that in athletics. Those are the true divas. So I'll call that a tie.
Okay. Have you ever regretted taking on a client?
Yes.
Key.
And I always know in my gut
Yeah.
as I'm doing it, this person is going to be a pain in the, but I can handle this. I can do this.
I can change that.
I can change it. And what I've learned is your initial gut reaction is never wrong.
Yeah.
Most difficult person you've ever had to interview?
The late great Don Shula.
Really?
And he's the one who taught me more about media than anybody in the media.
Really?
Because he had the most unbelievable presence of any human being I've ever been around. And he was so intimidating. You thought you felt some intimidation because So you would walk in, and Shula had this just tremendous physical presence. And I mean, I just learned so much from this man. When he would walk in the door, I don't care if you were on a cruise ship, a football field, if you were in a Catholic church, or if you were at a picnic, you knew he was in charge.
Right.
Like the second he walked in, he had this jaw, he had this framed body, and he was so powerful. So as you're asking him a question, he also had a very quick temper. There was a part of you that thought, if I do this wrong, I could be walking out without my head.
Right. Right.
And he had this crazy gift I've never seen any other coach. You see lots of coaches who lose their you-know-what during an interview, a game, whatever. Shula, in the middle of a game, could just lose it on a second down play. By third down, he was totally dialed back in, and he'd forgotten it. I've never seen anybody with as short a term of memories he had, but that was intimidating to be around.
Yeah.
It was really wild.
I would say so. What's probably the most brutal, honest feedback you've ever given to someone?
You should not be doing this, which I'm not giving to you guys. You're doing great, buddy.
That's coming later.
Yeah, but somebody gave that to me once, and I saw the value of it, because it doesn't happen all that often. But if you give it to somebody, you can save them decades of time.
Yeah.
And the background on that is, I'm 20-some years old. I'm just starting my broadcasting career, and I always thought it'd be great if you could play the piano. Wouldn't that be awesome? Like, holiday time. You've seen people do that. Like, you're not going to be Michael Bublé, but like, it'd be really cool to be able to just play the piano and entertain people who come to your house. So before I take lessons, I buy a Yamaha upright piano. I'm going all in. I'm all about diving all in. So I started taking lessons. First day, the woman teaches me this song called The Robin. I literally remember the song. Do 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 do. Time goes by. Every week I show up my lessons. 9 months in. All right, this today's lessons. She gets down. She goes, Gerry, do you notice that 9 months in you're still playing only the Robin? And I looked at her. I said, is that not normal? She said, no. Not only is that normal, you have the least amount of musical ability of any human being I ever met. You should never take another piano lesson. She saved me decades of sucking at the piano, because no matter how hard I tried, I was never going to be any good. And that taught me sometimes you got to tell people, you shouldn't be doing this.
Have you ever had an interview where going into the interview, you had this image of this person, and after the interview, you found out they were completely different
Yes.
as you thought they were?
First time I met Art Modell.
Really?
Okay.
People you see from a distance. I remember the only time I ever seen Art Modell was in his owner's box in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And white-haired man, and he always had a scowl on his face, and he looked very anxious. I thought, man, that's not somebody I want to be around. Well, when the Browns moved to Baltimore, the first time I sit down to a one-on-one with Art, he had this unbelievable sense of humor. He was extraordinarily warm. He wasn't in this high-pressure situation with the outcome of the game affecting him. And he became somebody that I recognize, wow, that's why you've been an effective leader your whole life, because you know how to make people comfortable in your presence.
Yeah.
That's really one of the great gifts he had. Humor was one of the tools he used. When you just saw his physical appearance, he looked standoffish and cold, and those two didn't match. And over the years, I actually developed a communications model based on helping people connect that.
Okay, neat.
Wow. Well, Gerry, you passed with flying colors.
And I did.
You
You didn't have to use it. You didn't have to use the plead the fifth, but I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Appreciate the invite.
Can you let our listeners know where they can find the Sandusky Group if they need some coaching?
Online, SanduskyGroup.com. You can hit me up on Instagram, good Gerry Sandusky on Instagram.
Yeah.
Gerry Sandusky you'll find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Gerry Sandusky. And if you ever wonder, remember the 6-word mantra, Gerry with a G, no relation.
Love it. Love it.